Welcome to the discussion today on strategic planning, namely exploring the issues and concerns around the case study of network management systems. My name is James Kirkbride. I'm joined today by two panel members who have very different but very successful records in terms of strategic leadership. To my left is Aaron Ettingen. Aaron, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Sure, my name is Aaron Ettingen. I'm the Chief Executive of the London School of Business and Finance, which is one of the fastest growing educational companies around the world. We've grown for the last 5 years with over 120% year on year, and today we have over 15,000 students. Highly innovative organization, highly exciting. We work in over 30 markets around the world, and we identify a successful strategy for each market. Within my business career, I've been involved in 12 acquisitions. Some of the organizations we acquired have been very successful. Some had very serious issues. We managed to turn all of them into success within less than 12 months' time.
Excellent. Thank you, Aaron. I can't wait to have your opinions for Ray in a moment. Stephen.
My name's Commodore Steve Jeremy. I was a naval officer until quite recently. I fought in the Falklands War, commanded ships, flew from carriers. My last job in leadership was commanding the Fleet Air Arm, which is 6,000 people, and my last job abroad was as the strategy director in the Afghan embassy, which we didn't have quite as much success as our own. I've just finished a book called Strategy into Action, which looks, amongst other things, at the relationship between corporate and military strategy.
Fascinating. Welcome, Stephen. The problems that we're going to discuss today that face Ray are the issues of Ray planning his exit strategy from the organisation. Clearly, matters may have got on top of Ray. You've seen some of the challenges he's facing, and we are faced with 3 solutions to discuss and explore and to conclude whether any of those solutions will be appropriate for Ray. The first solution is that actually Ray does try to lead the company out of current problems, which he does attribute to the global downturn, and that he seeks to float the company on the stock exchange. Stephen, do you think that's a feasible option at this stage?
I think this year the immediate issue with this option is to make sure that Ray's diagnosis is right. He diagnoses the problem as the stock exchange and the global economic slowdown. But actually, is that really the problem in the company? I look in the company and it seems to me that there are other issues at play. Morale clearly isn't good. His gearing is going north. His margins are going south. To me, there's something funny going on here. So before I jumped into that option, I want to have a really good diagnosis and make sure that is the cause of what's going wrong. But then I'd also look and say, what amount of value am I going to get? Will I really be able to float this company on the stock exchange? And will we be able to get anybody to look at us? What have we seen? We've seen the venture capitalists walking away. And if risk-minded venture capitalists are walking away, what's the chance that less or more risk-averse shareholders will buy in? So I'd be very, very cautious about this approach before I tried it.
Interesting. Aaron, it's interesting that you agree with Stephen that Ray is not yet ready to go to the market. From your experience of developing organisations, what must Ray do to actually get to the market?
Well, in short, a lot. He has to get his profits right, his margins right. He has to get his books in order, so the financial statements. In a lot of entrepreneurial businesses, it's still a major issue. Sound financial systems in place. He needs a great story, and unfortunately, he doesn't have one. He doesn't have market share. He doesn't have that uniqueness. But yet, there's a lot of potential. He got good reputation. He got technology. He got some award for Queen's Award for Technology, which is a very prestigious award. He needs good stories, and the quickest way to do that is through high quality partnership. And I would consider a number of options. I would consider perhaps a strategy of franchising. Go to the French, to the Germans, to the Japanese. Give them a name, give them a technology, the business model, and let them operate in their own market. Let them invest. Let them get through the governments. And some of those franchises might do better than he's doing himself, because he's really an engineer. He's focusing on the research and development. They'll be purely focusing on business development and sales. The second strategy is identifying a strategic partner who can bring on board both finance and operational efficiency. Perhaps an Indian or Chinese factory who can bring not only major savings, but also finance, or a partner with major distribution networks who already got operations across the world and savings and all of that. So it's having that type of story.
That's interesting, an interesting development. Could that strategy be partly substituted by solution C? Maybe rather than the partnership, could he look for somebody who might acquire the business?
I think he could. I think that just before, if I may, James,
Yes.
there's a really interesting learning point here, which is that actually one of the most important things, and it's certainly the case in military strategy, and I sense it is in corporate strategy, is to actually develop a range of options and actually work through those options. And what Aaron's done is just presented with us. General Slim used to do it in the Second World War. 4 options he always went for, try to get a few more. And that gives you the range of options. And if you really work hard through them, actually, then you go for one. Once you've made up your mind, and go for it. In terms of acquisition, I think it is an option for him. But again, I think this is very much how he feels about the business. How is he going to feel about his baby being owned by somebody else and not having the directional role? So there's the real issue for me before you see that and see how that works for him is what does he want? Does he want to relinquish this business or not? And if he's happy to accept that, has he really thought through what that would mean in terms of his working relationships with the baby that he's built up now being owned and run by somebody else?
And of course, we're told very early on in the case study, here's somebody who works 18 hours for himself rather than 8 hours for somebody else. Seems to suggest it's not right for him.
Well, again, I would bow to Aaron's views on this, actually, but sometimes in entrepreneurial stuff, you're moving at speed and you need an entrepreneurial person like that who's going to get the thing running. Again, this is where is he in the business cycle at the moment? And to what extent is the crisis the defining issue and getting out of the crisis before anything else happens?
Yeah. Getting out of the crisis, Aaron. He says one possible solution is to sell and leave, walk away. Is that realistic?
Well, there are a number of options, and I absolutely agree with Steve about options. And I think when it comes to strategy, negotiations, leadership, it's always about options. Absolutely right. If I can just add to the previous question in terms of partnership and an acquisition, I think trust is really important as well, and research into track record of a potential partner or an acquisition. What did they do with that entrepreneur? How successful was that transaction, or non-successful? And how Ray feels with that people? Can he work with them on an individual basis? So all these things are very, very important. And I've seen businesses which been in private hands for generations, sometimes family run, and they would be sold. And I saw families continue working within a much larger organizations very, very successfully. So I wouldn't completely rule this option out. Coming back to solution B, in terms of walking away and selling the business. Well, Ray is actually in a very fortunate position. He has 2 businesses to play with. And the beauty there that one business, he can perfectly scale it up himself. And it's relatively low-risk business. The business which is the network management system, which basically he can compete very successfully because it's a niche business. In a niche business, Microsoft or Dell cannot come in and provide a solution because the whole business is about customization. So he actually has an advantage. And he can really scale this up. And he only has a negligible market share, only 2 or 3 competitors, great reputation, doesn't require much investment to scale this business up. So he can really keep this business and focus on this. Now, if he needs to raise some cash, he can simply dispose his first business. And that's absolutely fine.
And the other business is higher risk, it seems to me, as well. He's got a relatively small market, or share of the market. He's at 1% of the market, I recall. And he's very highly reliant on a single customer. So I must say my instinct would be, as you say, Aaron, to think very seriously about divesting himself of that and running with one which certainly seems to work.
Sure.
And just to come back on your point, I think acquire or not to acquire, the disadvantage, of course, is you're giving your baby away. The advantage, of course, you may get leverage. He may be able to do things that he never thought he would be able to do if he's prepared to accept a compromise of a relationship with somebody else. And he may be able to move at speed, which he wouldn't have been able to do because of the economies of scale that he would get from the other partners to the organisation.
Okay. Fascinating. Thank you, gentlemen. It appears to me that, as you say, General Slynn, you've got a series of options, look at them, choose them. In this particular instance, Ray still has a number of options on the table. All of them involve a personal aspect as well, the human aspect of how he wishes as an entrepreneur to continue with his career and his development. Thank you all very much. Thank you.